The UFC has had roughly the same men's weight classes for years now. Heavyweight, 265 pounds. Light heavyweight, 205 pounds. Middleweight, 185 pounds. Welterweight, 170 pounds. Lightweight, 155 pounds. Featherweight, 145 pounds. Bantamweight, 135 pounds. And flyweight, 125 pounds. Early on, the promotion only carried lightweight to heavyweight, but after UFC 49, they scrapped their 155-pound division, eventually bringing it back at UFC 58. At UFC 64, Sean Strick defeated Kenny Florian to become the first lightweight champion since 2002. In the years following, it has become one of the best divisions with the deepest talent pool in all of MMA. When the UFC acquired the WEC in 2006, there was speculation that they might eventually take over the promotion's lower weight classes. In 2010, Dana White made the idea a reality, bringing featherweight and bantamweight to the UFC. In 2012, they debuted the flyweight division with a 4-man tournament from which Demetrius Mighty Mouse Johnson reigned supreme. From that point forward, things have remained unchanged for the men fighting in the octagon. However, fans may notice the gaps between these weight classes aren't the same. Only 10 pounds separate flyweight and bantamweight, but 20 pounds between middleweight and light heavyweight. Similarly, between lightweight and welterweight, there's a 15-pound weight difference, but only 10 pounds between featherweight and lightweight. The problem with the gap between 170 pounds and 155 pounds is the sheer amount of talent focused in these two weight classes. 31% of male fighters in the UFC compete between those divisions. That's 97 at welterweight and 80 at lightweight. They are the two biggest weight classes by far, followed by featherweight with 63 fighters. Taking just 30% of each weight class would easily make a division larger than flyweight right now, somewhere around 53 fighters. More than heavyweight, flyweight, and light heavyweight to give you some perspective. And the drain would still leave both lightweight and welterweight with around 60 fighters each. Talent is so deep between them, and partially that has to do with the large 15-pound gap in weight. Given those numbers, it seems the UFC needs a 165-pound division, and accompanying that, to move welterweights to 175 pounds. This adds a consistent 10-pound gap and more evenly distributes the talent. This feels necessary in large part due to lightweight becoming such a rough weight class for many fighters to cut to. Fighters who are clearly too small for welterweight, where athletes start to get up over 6 feet and taller on a regular basis. Fighters like Kevin Lee have been calling for a 165-pound weight class for a while. It would be a natural fit for him and many of the larger lightweights who struggle to make their current weight safely. In July of 2017, the ABC, Association of Boxing Commissions, adopted these weight classes, along with the new 165-pound division, the super lightweights, and a 175-pound super welterweight division. They added a 195-pound super middleweight and a 225-pound cruiserweight. Those last two also fill some large gaps between the current divisions, but the actual amount of fighters competing there is significantly less, and the impact they would have seems less necessary. Between featherweight and middleweight, the UFC has its most competitive weight classes, and evening them out and distributing the talent could be fantastic for showcasing more athletes. The counter-argument comes from boxing, and their seeming massive overabundance of weight classes. Currently, there are 17 recognized weight classes in boxing, and many have argued that it has led to a dilution of talent, and has considerably desaturated the weight classes. At one point, boxing looked quite similar to MMA. It had only 8 divisions, so that number has more than doubled from classic standards. The key here for the UFC is to maximize the saturation of divisions while also keeping even and safe gaps between them. 10 pounds, by all accounts, seems to be the best gap. More and the cuts get insane for fighters, less and the weight classes start to feel insignificant. Data collected by the California State Athletic Commission, which has been studying weight cutting in MMA and trying to reform the practice, underlines the need for more weight classes around lightweight. In both Bellator and the UFC, the 155-pound weight class saw the highest average weight cut in terms of percentage of body weight. The mean average weight regained from the weigh-in to the fight for 155 pounds in Bellator is 11.09% of body weight. Median is 11.35% of body weight. The mean average weight regained from the weigh-in to fight for 155 pounds in the UFC is 11.8%. Median is 10.77%. It is considered severe dehydration medically, and under normal circumstances would result in hospitalization. It's worth noting as well that MMA fighters cut more weight in general than other combat sports athletes across all weight classes. So the 155-pound weight class has the highest weight cuts in the sport with the biggest weight cuts. Given all that, who do you think will be the UFC's first super lightweight champion?